Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Coffee with Experts. I am your host, Matt Fraser. On today's show, I have with me Jeremy Bittle. Jeremy is the founder of JSB Collaborative, a boutique SEO and lead generation consultancy headquartered in Rochester, New York. He has been helping small and medium-sized businesses to generate more leads and sales online for the past 7+ years. And when not working on SEO campaigns and lead generation campaigns for clients, he enjoys playing poker and playing jazz music on his guitar and keyboard, as well as producing UK grunge music, if I got that correctly. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway.
We're good.
Jeremy, pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Yep. Yeah, thanks.
Right on. So, Jeremy, how would you describe the kind of person you were in high school?
Real quiet.
Oh, yeah.
Can I say autistic on here?
Of course you can.
Not really, but really, especially looking back, I really felt like it. I was kind of just in my own world. And I was doing music and trying to get laid, not getting laid.
When you're 18, or when you're in high school, that's all you're really thinking about.
Yep. You betcha.
I noticed that you went to college for music.
I dropped out.
Oh, you dropped out? Okay. But do you think that your musical background has helped you in your current career?
Definitely, yeah. When I got into production, I got Pro Logic 8 originally. It's like the Photoshop for audio engineering and stuff like that. It was probably one of the best things that it did for my mind. I grew up around music and art. My mom's an artist. My dad's a musician.
Oh, cool.
So I grew up with very, whatever side of the brain that is, family, creative side.
Yeah, right. It's the right side, people say, but.
Yeah, whatever they mean. I think at least as a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
And with the program that you work on, it's very technical and it's engineering, and it's the other side of the brains.
The analytical.
The cold, dead side. So doing both, trying to be creative and dealing with all these technical problems and learning about it from 2008 on, been something really good. I think it's really good for everybody. A lot of kids are really super early now. I think it's great.
For sure.
Technically, learning piano or guitar is also technical feats in front of you to finger correctly and play the different things correctly, but there's much less involved there is in production to learn how to make beats and stuff like that. I know it sounds not as challenging or whatever, but it really can be. So
what do you think are some of the similarities between doing that, being a musician, and being an SEO consultant?
Yeah, definitely being creative and technical is super important in SEO.
Yeah.
You're not creative, like just, I don't know, do something else. Like you have to be able to think for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're just going to read Neil Patel blogs and then try to do what he did, take the case study and copy and paste it to everybody.
That's usually
there's too much of that in our industry, and it's really making us look bad. I think SEO has a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouth because they've worked with folks that have no creativity whatsoever.
Yeah. So what was your first experience with SEO? Like, how did you get introduced to it?
I was bartending, and I had a regular that we became good friends, and he was from out of town, and I had been bartending for maybe 4 years in Rochester. And we basically wanted to know and meet some of the people that I knew, and just from a sales standpoint. So he ended up offering me to partner in the company.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew nothing whatsoever about the whole thing. And he had a white label agency out of, I think, India. And it turned out that they were not very good, unfortunately.
Awesome.
And so we got a couple projects in the door. I had left my job as manager of a tequila bar, and I thought I just was following his lead. He made me feel like we were going to be making tens of thousands of dollars per month in yet a few months. And it's possible. It's definitely possible, especially if you really focus on sales. But found over the years, basically fast forward, projects went bad. I started my own company and taught myself how to do everything. I didn't have a provider any longer. And I found that the more that I learned about how to do it, the better I got at sales.
Yeah.
And that's just my style of sales. And I'm not I don't consider myself like a salesman because I'm the opposite of the way a lot of folks run sales meetings. But that's been my experience.
All right on. Hey, what's your favorite thing about being an SEO consultant?
I just really enjoy the work, at least in terms of the theory crafting, which is what I consider to be the real work. And being able to communicate that in a way that clients can understand the theory and think about the internet differently as a result, especially as the way the brand and their website interacts with the web. Without trailing and adding too many other things I like about SEO, I think that's the one.
Okay. What do you think are the biggest challenges?
It's tough to really know what's going on behind the scenes at Google, who is in. Sometimes it feels like they're buckling under the pressure of crawling, indexing, serving the web at scale. At such high scale, the web is exponentially growing every day.
It's amazing.
So, I know. And they're trying to keep up with it. And sometimes it seems like they're buckling under that pressure and we got this. The latest update is interesting. And I want to be a fly on the wall in the engineering meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like while they've been buckling under the pressure of this growing web, they've been very, especially as I understand it, because I'm only 7 years in, but as I understand it, post Matt Cutts, like there hasn't been a whole lot of like really aggressive activity from them and stuff like that, besides for 2016, I think. And Danny Sullivan seems to have been very transparent. I'm not sure if was really his decision or if it was really more like Gary Ilyish or even John Mueller. They've got the Search Off the Record podcast, and they've been very transparent in some of their what's that expo that they put a lot of video content out for. They've had Paul Haar up there as an engineer, like really talking a lot about what's really going on. But then the stuff that they're saying that they're doing with the helpful content update, I haven't seen a whole lot of activity. Like I haven't seen a lot of volatility, but besides the normal volatility. Yeah. Especially just post any update. So I'm not like freaked out yet based on what I've seen in the field. What I'm freaked out about or what they're saying is going on, that they're going to give us a site-wide penalty. Sounds a lot like a Panda thing. They're not going to tell it. It's just, it boggles my mind that they think that's a good idea. So I guess to answer your question, that's what I think the biggest challenge is really. How do we know when they're just going to go off their rocker and just be like, you know what? Real nice the past 8 years.
Do you think that what Google says and what Google says and what actually happens in the SERPs is always lining up? Is it like, do you think they're always?
I think that I listen to a lot of John Mueller, and while I do totally understand, I feel like I've had my phase of hating Google and what they say and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Got that out of my system. And I think there should be a little bit of credit to John, who has to, he's just a PR guy. Sure.
Yeah.
But it's a tough job. He has to speak to all publishers on the web.
Yeah.
In all languages. And then I'm sure he's getting pulled by both ends by the engineering team and what's actually going on behind the scenes. And then what he's supposed to say, he has, in terms of expectation management across all of the web, like he has the hardest job as an SEO. Like he's not an SEO, but like he has to speak to publishers similar to that we without really any context. And as we know, it depends thing. It depends on the context of the situation. And as an SEO, I think it'll make sense. We have this ability to speak directly to a client and say contextually, this is why it doesn't just depend. This is what's happening because you are an e-commerce website and you have these factors in front of you. And this is what happened. This is what's going on with John. He has to speak. Everything he says is always going to get taken because clients, let's just call the whole web his client, all of his clients.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to go, oh, if he speaks something too specifically, someone else is going to go and take it out of context or just run with it as if it would be applicable to their shop or their situation. And it's just not, because it did depend in that scenario when you're talking to so many people. So I think it's really challenging, and I think it's really interesting to listen to them, especially lately, because they have been more transparent. The things that Gary Ilyish says, and even Martin Splitt to an extent, on their Search Off the Record podcast, for instance, like they're really explaining what SEO, what search engines are document information retrieval machines.
Yeah.
And they're just talking about information retrieval at scale, which is what
that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what we should all be studying essentially as SEO consultants.
Yeah. How do you think the Google helpful content, they're talking about writing content. They've always talked about this, writing content for humans rather than machines or search engines, and only producing topics for one site only producing a site from one topic rather than writing about a whole bunch of different topics, which seems to lead you to think that it's going to be that they want you to focus on niche specific websites.
Yeah, I know.
And talking about not writing content that you don't have any personal experience in. I don't understand that, but yeah.
The whole release, the press release, whatever you want to call it, everything they said about it is really eked me out, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
So weird that they think they could algorithmically figure any of that out. And they say AI is behind a lot of it. And they say,
is that what they're trying to tackle? Is the content assisted AI assisted content creation? Is that what they're trying to inherit?
It seems, yes. But when I said that there's AI behind it, what I mean is that I believe they're saying that the algorithm figuring out how authentic your content is AI driven on their end.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Which must be very expensive, right? And that's always a topic in terms of, when we're talking SEO, is how expensive would it be to enact whatever we might say that Google's doing. And any kind of AI driven algorithm, I think, has got to be pretty expensive on the entire web, right? And I think that's all they're saying. It's slow. Like your site might not be affected right away, but eventually it would be, probably because it takes time to run. So it's probably a pretty weighty thing. I would assume if I were going to tell the web and publishers on it that they couldn't have a page about apples if their website in a niche way was about SEO, because Apple's page is a doorway page, and it doesn't relate to your website.
Yeah.
So if I was going to tell people that they had to do that without totally fucking over, if you don't mind me just blatantly swearing on your podcast, like Wikipedia or even like CNN, multi-topic website, like when I first read that, I was like, what are they doing? But if I had to come up with a way to enact that without screwing over Wikipedia, is if you just open up the URLs, let's just say they use URL strings for this. You could probably, there are plenty of other signals that you could use, maybe like article titles if they pull that or have some idea of that, maybe H1s or maybe even meta titles. But let's just say you open up the list of URLs, say in Search Console or whatever, and you look through all the slugs, and I bet that there's a way to determine entity relationships between the nouns across each, every time there's a noun in the URL string. And eventually, if there is a very obtruse relationship in terms of the way that the entities are related across the list of links, and all of a sudden there's this one that goes apples, I can see that. Because what could happen then, and that way you could have niche websites that's about a few different niches, like shoulders to each other. Friend of mine, his world is, or one of his niche websites is butt enhancement cream for your butt.
Oh yeah.
But bigger, you know what I'm saying? And I would imagine that he would want to be able to write about, not just have like articles about, not just butt enhancement cream, but about surgery and why it's bad, about
Yeah.
creams and just the industry of these kinds of products from just a beauty and health and beauty standpoint. And I would imagine that eventually, if you keep writing about this stuff in terms of the industry, you're going to start to get unrelated almost. But if there's entity relationships between, I would imagine that you could go from niche to niche, so long as there's some kind of bridge between each one. And then that wouldn't screw over a semi-multi-topic website, let alone a fully multi-topic website like Wikipedia.
Yeah. I wonder what it means for sites like Tom's Guide and Lifehacker that write on, or makeUseof.com, that write on multiple, when they're saying.
I would imagine that if you pull open a list of all these links, like eventually there's a way to get from this topic to the over here to the one all the way up here. But I think if you did have like a niche website, and then all of a sudden you threw in this one out here that just totally
off the rails.
If you did have a way to relate entity relationships between each other and say, these are related, this food article is related, eventually becomes related to this one on entertainment. But then you throw this one that's way out here and super obtruse, and this is clearly inauthentic content and clearly was made for SEO purposes. Like I feel like there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are doing so much with entities, I just think every time they talk about AI and every time they talk about these kinds of things, I think it's all run on this entity thing, whatever it is that you're doing there. But it seems super relevant to me and seems cost effective. What were you going to say?
So do you think entrepreneurs should pivot now and start niche specific websites if they're going to like, instead of having a website that talks about food and travel, just have a website that talks about food and just a website that talks about travel, and separating those two things?
It's an interesting question. I think I definitely need to see a lot more data, like real world data.
See what happens. Yeah.
Of the helpful content update.
Yeah.
Affecting, I just haven't seen it affect the web yet. It's asked on me that they won't tell you if you are affected though. So it's going to be up to us to like really be looking closely.
Yeah.
And when we do, I have not seen a website that has been quote unquote hit yet. When I do, I might be able to answer that question better, but I would have to figure that they can't screw over publishers that bad to where then you have to do obtruse shit like that, where you have to make two different websites just because.
I don't know.
It seems like they're really focused on certain things, and they just didn't want to say, like, we are just trying to screw over people with AI content writers, like to your point earlier.
Yeah, I think that's what they're after.
Definitely.
I've read some stories of some websites that were obvious, and the publisher couldn't have made it more obvious that they were using AI, because there's no way they would have the budget to publish the amount of content they published in the amount of time they published it. And they got totally de-indexed, manual penalty, and slapped. And it was very interesting. But what are your thoughts on AI generated content?
It seems like, I think also related to the previous question, it seems like Google really is afraid of it. And I don't, because I'm seeing it come out. It seems like it's really, especially this drama with those guys with the Amazon book that was supposedly plagiarized from the.
No idea.
I don't know. I was just watching an SEO Fight Club from a couple of weeks ago that talked about some industry drama, and that was just the scenario where it was put up onto Amazon.com and sold as a book. And so if that's happening on,
just wait a minute. So was that book written by AI and it ended up being plagiarized?
Like somebody else's supposedly original content that was then spun with AI. And it was too similar. It was so similar. The original writer knew it was because they used to work together or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
But if that kind of thing.
So maybe the guy took the outline of the book and used AI to generate unique content based on the same outline.
Then come out super after all or something. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read it after it came out of the thing. I just published it to Amazon." And I'm totally paraphrasing what half listening to about the drama.
Yeah.
So don't quote me on any of that. But, and I don't even know, I can't even think of the names anyways. But my point is just, if that's happening on ebooks, people are leveraging that kind of technology in the book publishing space. Like it's definitely happening on the web. And if I were Google, I'd be having meetings about that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Do you think it has a place in developing SEO friendly content?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use it personally. I think half of the whole value of having me as an SEO consultant amidst your brand is that I'm going to force you and your subject matter experts to be involved in this whole thing. This whole
absolutely.
Initiatives. I break down doors to get them to write stuff. And it's, if you don't want to write stuff, then it's, what are we doing here? A, are you paying me? B, stuff doesn't happen overnight. C, get involved in the marketing efforts of your company. So it's not just marketers marketing stuff, like information.
Yeah, content's important.
Yeah, that's all. That is authentic. So there are some things,
absolutely,
helpful content that didn't impact my consult a whole lot. If anything, there were some of the things that I was saying, and I don't mean to sound like such a white hat. Truly, I don't. But I just think that this kind of initiative benefits brands more than just what they would leverage out of the SEO initiative.
Yeah. I was going to ask you. Yeah, we've covered that already. What do you think about, how do you advise clients to use structured data to improve their web presence?
Honestly, maybe this is an unpopular opinion or like short-sighted or something, but that just seems to me that what Yoast not only is currently outputting, but also regularly tends to and updates and makes even thicker usually, their schema. And I've used Rank Math a little bit, not enough, and I've heard that's a really robust tool. What I did see of it looks awesome. I used to write a lot of custom schema, like really deep, and it's awesome. I love it. But I stopped seeing great effects. And going back to the whole working with brands thing is that it was actually in context of schema, let alone some other weird H1, H whatever considerations. I'm telling this developer for this brand, this is what I want you to do. I want you to inject this JavaScript into the head section of the website. Trust me, it'll be cool. And like, sure, like I could tell them it's for SEO, but they still some level for me to get them to jump or do anything or mess with the website, especially on subject of anything JavaScript related. It was such a pain in the ass for what it was worth. And because it didn't actually end up benefiting the brand outside of what the SEO benefits are. You know what I mean? Like it didn't if I tell them you need to publish broader, like your number of entities used factor here is low. So your topical breadth of this page is not as competitive as other people in the market. That's really good SEO advice that also gets them thinking about the web and how they publish information more deeply. And it changes the way that they think about their whole website. Not me like writing some custom schema and being like, yo, shove this into the thing. You know what I mean? So that's really where my practice has been going over the past few years in particular. And I think that just positions me to work with more brands and larger companies rather than like the smaller ones. But I think Yoast schema to that end does great. Does a great job across so many pages. Just turn it on.
So what factors do you consider when developing an SEO strategy for some of the brands you work with?
I'm real big into on-page. On-page. Outside of just general on-page, we could go into what those are. What specifically I'm interested in on-page, but like in general, content organization I think is very important. And that comes
content organization as far as site structure, you mean?
A lot of things like site structure, lack of topical duplicity with regards to potential cannibalization, which doesn't really doesn't seem to be as problematic as it was a few years ago. It seems like Google is learning how to deal with duplicity a little better, which they should because it's common on the web. But like just at least understanding what the potential problems are to that end, I think is important for the client. But yeah, just interlinking how the content is just positioned, is there categorization of across the blog, if it's about something like one niche, if it's about retirement or other niches I worked in, is like bipolar, information about like bipolar disorder, and that's the whole website. So obviously they're going to be about similar topics often. So then the question was like, do we categorize these pages and then use that category as the ammunition to target that topic? I think that all of these questions are super important, and I just lump it all in as like a conversation with developers and writers about the way the content's organized on the website.
Yeah. What are some ways you advise people, the clients, to come up with content, like content ideas, content
I really
topics
just
to write about?
To write authentically. I'm really, maybe this is short-sighted, but I just don't, I've looked at so much keyword data over the years and just seems so anecdotal more by the year. And it seems like Google parses topics well and understands synonyms well. So we do the research and we show the client, but I also say I turn that screen off a lot, and I just say, what do you want to write about? What is profitable to you? What are these topics that will drive the most profit, not the most volume? But yeah, I try to pull authenticity out of subject matter experts and try to get them to just even be involved in the conversation. And hopefully that bridges teams together.
Yeah. Do you have any predictions for how SEO will change in the next 5 years?
I want to say that it's always going to be about information and potentially the depth and organization of which. And
think video will play a bigger part?
Maybe. It's still going to be so expensive for them to parse. So it's just going to be coming back to the fields that you can fill out in the YouTube the title and the short description and these different things. I don't see, even with quantum computing coming down the line, like it will never eclipse how fast people can publish these things, whether video or content on the web, because the quantum computing maybe Alphabet gets it first, but publishers will still also have access to it. And I think on some level, the web will grow faster as a result of having better technology, and Google will still be grasping at straws sometimes.
Yeah. I think there's 175 websites launching every minute right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
And I struggle to understand how another company other than Google would be able to
index it all.
Yeah. I think that they just had such a leg up and head start. Luckily, I think there was the PageRank patent was a brilliant concept that
it was, it is
that bit them 20 years later. It bit them in the ass, but and when I say they got lucky, it's because it's how they were able to launch such a brand in such an important space, which is basically the organization of the web, the ability to query.
Before they came along, I'm going to be frank with you, I'm that old. I remember how hard it was to find stuff. I remember when my friend in 2000 and I think it was 2000, and he told me about a Gmail address. I was using Hotmail. I got an invite, and that was my first Gmail address, and I've had multiple since. And I was like, this is amazing. And that rollout was very smart the way they did it. But before Google came out, like all the other search engines sucked. Like it was really hard to find stuff on the internet, and they've made it a hell of a lot easier. It's not perfect now, but they definitely made the internet organization of the information a lot easier to find.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking about the way websites were then.
Oh gosh, they were HTML and tables and CSS. That CSS didn't even exist. They were just HTML tables for Pete's sake. I mean, content management systems didn't enter the space until, I don't think WordPress really, I started working with WordPress 2007, but like I started off with Joomla, and I really thought that I started with Joomla and I thought, you know what, WordPress is going to be bigger. And I don't know why I thought that, I just did. But and even that technology, content management systems, have made it so much easier for people to be able to publish. Like I said, there's 175 websites coming online every minute. How many, apparent to the statistics, 33% of those are launched by WordPress. And the point being that those types of systems have made it so much easier for people to get online,
Mhm.
which was Matt Mullenweg's original mission anyway. He wanted to democratize the internet as far as publishing went. Easy for people to get online. So, and in doing so, he's given Google more. I wonder if Google's always going to index everybody's shit and content. Like, at what point, like even in tough niches where like we're going in, the internet was invented, 1999 when Tim, I can't remember his name, but Tim whatever invented it. Gosh, I should look up his name so I'm not like a moron. When there's websites that, I can't even remember his name, Tim Berners-Lee. There's websites that have been around for so long that are so strong in the search results and that top 10 listing. Like you wonder if Google's even going to bother like indexing other sites unless you're like, you'd have to, I don't know, man. Like you'd have to have some kick-ass content to really, how the hell are you going to do something better than someone who's had a piece of content that's so expertly written, that has so many backlinks, that's been around for, because we look at this stuff all the time and it's, no, you might as well not bother trying to produce content in that niche. We better go after some different words or you might as well see what your lifetime value of your customer is and your average acquisition, your average client's costs, your average amount of money that you're making per transaction and see if PPC makes sense. Which sometimes pisses me off because I've been doing this for so long. If I had bloody well focused on being a publisher that long ago, instead of chasing clients to do work for, I'd be in a much different position. That's for damn sure. But hey, you can't live with regret. You just got to move forward. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see the metaverse coming out and that whole thing and crypto changing the landscape of our society and how that's going to work out.
Definitely blockchain. I wonder if the metaverse
the blockchain. It's unbelievable. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. And it's like the Web3.
It is. It really is.
We're on the verge of another internet wave is what I'm trying to say with that. Almost at another turning point where there's a wave to ride and get in front of again.
Yeah, I know.
Which makes me think, I wonder if Facebook shares have taken quite a hit and people are saying that Zuckerberg is screwing up the company. And I wonder if he's being too forward thinking in that regard.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think.
Because at the end of the day, shareholders want to see their share value go up now. Something that's being done to increase the value of the shares. I think you can be too far ahead of the curve. They want to see him fix the damn. I know we're not talking about SEO, but like business in general. I think that people want to see, the internet. I think people want to see Mark Zuckerberg fix the damn iOS 14.5 update issue before fucking I'll get them to edit that part, for him focusing on the damn metaverse. Mark, that's a much bigger problem to solve right now because that's the reason why your shareholders' value is going down. You've wiped out $72 billion worth of value off of the internet, off of your company. Solve that damn problem first. Forget about the fucking metaverse. Put it on hold.
Yeah. I think people, especially you get to that level or whatever you want to call that, and they obsess over chasing this concept of being the first to propagate something like that. And it's not even, I don't mean it from an ego standpoint. I just mean it from they think it has so much utility to be that trailblazer. There's no utility there. No. Yeah. People get lucky and end up investing in Google or investing in Bitcoin really early, but you don't try to do that. It's fucking accidents. You know?
Yeah. In the most part. Yeah. And I think he's betting a little bit too much on the metaverse, of how big it's going to be. No, we don't know yet.
No, we don't.
And he's taking a huge gamble in thinking that it could piffle out and nobody even want to bother with that stuff. Just because he thinks it's going to be.
We'll look stupid when people look back on this this recording because
maybe
metaverse did blow up and whatever. Okay, I'm not saying that it can't be the case. I'm just saying that we should be a little bit conservative about our ventures and stop obsessing. I feel like if I could make a kind of a comparison, like how back in the day emperors and kings sought after a fountain of youth, was upset. They get to this place and they get obsessed with this race.
Yeah. Hey, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Jeremy. What's one big takeaway you want listeners to get from this episode?
I think that we really should always be challenging especially like between colleagues, challenging our idea and definition of what SEO is, especially when you're working directly with clients.
Yeah.
I'm constantly re-educating folks on what it is they're going to get when they hire me. And expectation is pretty rough. I'm very abrasive sometimes with the client expectation management because I'm following so many yes men. So stop being yes men. Be real with clients as to what they're going to get from an SEO consultant or SEO service, whatever you want to call it or package it as. It's all theory and there is no real best practice.
Yeah.
Just be honest with people.
Yeah. If our listeners want to connect online with you, how can they do so?
Oh, just email me. My social media presence is really bad. My website is also pretty bad.
All right.
Sorry about all that.
That's all good. Are you on LinkedIn? If people want to connect with you on LinkedIn, is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
Probably email me.
Okay. All right.
We were talking earlier, like I'm currently managing like around 50 client projects, SEO, monthly retainer type projects. And so I don't have a lot of time to do the social media stuff. And I wish I had more time to take my own advice and publish rich information about my industry. Just don't have it. But these kinds of, I love getting on the horn and talking like we did today.
Right on.
Shop, yeah. This is great.
Cool.
Thanks for having me.
Right on. No problem. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. Okay. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Nice meeting you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, you too.